Welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. All right, so more sad news from the world of melodic rock. This time, an entire record label is calling it quits. They are retiring. They are done releasing new music. They have one more reissue or compilation they're going to release. I'm talking about the record label AOR Heaven. They put out a press release a few days ago, or it's basically in their newsletter. They say, "Howdy, melodic rockers. As this is the final newsletter in 2021, I also want to inform you that me and my wife have decided that we'll retire in 2 steps. We'll stop releasing new albums effective immediately, except for the one reissue that will be coming out on January the 14th as a double CD. That will be the final release. This will be a limited run of 500 units through our mail order only. End of 2022, we'll fully retire, including our mail order, and concentrating on my tennis career." That's the plan, my friends. As we'll close for our vacations Tuesday next week, if you want to order before Christmas, please send us the order over the weekend, at least to make sure that we can proceed to do it before Christmas break. Wishing you a great Christmas and a healthy New Year, George and Monica. And George and Monica apparently are the current CEOs of AOR Heaven, the home of melodic rock. So AOR Heaven basically going out of business. My friend Damiano, who is the lead singer for this group here, Perfect Plan, told me about this, and I was like, wow, okay. So another one bites the dust, folks, and it's kind of sad from my perspective. Look, Frontiers music, very dominant in this field, and now will probably get more dominant. But even though I like Frontiers music, competition is really a good thing. And Frontiers, here's the critique, okay? They put out a lot of stuff, and some of it kind of sounds the same. And this has been the critique online for quite some time. I've still stuck up for them when they've made personnel changes, like the group Sunstorm. They decided that Jolyn Turner decided he wasn't going to be in it anymore. And so they replaced him and they kept the brand going, right? And a lot of people were upset about that. As far as the music goes, some people would say the earlier Sunstorm stuff was better, and the stuff now kind of sounds like a lot of other bands. I understand that critique, and it's really based on the production and how the drums are produced and how the keyboard sound, and there are a number of different things where I like to hear a little crunchy, earthy. I want to hear those crisp drum beats. I don't have to hear a constant, just, almost like gunfire on the drums. And a lot of the in-house production from Frontiers kind of sounds that way. I'm just being honest. Some of the music still ends up being better than anything else being made, but that's almost despite what I'm talking about. In other words, either the material is well written and the production doesn't hurt it as much as it could if the music was really bad. Whereas on other record labels, like the label that this band is on here, all right, Lion's Pride Music, they don't put out as much stuff. And their stuff is more just, we're going to put out just melodic rock. So if you like Journey, Whitesnake, Foreigner, a little crunchier, a little hair metal-ish. But if you like that sound and you like that style, we're going to put out guys who are sincere, who are trying to keep the genre alive. They may not be quite as talented as some of the people over on Frontiers, I'll say that. However, the production value that they bring to these albums, the packaging, the artwork, all of it excels. It's just really, really great. It's called Lion's Pride Music. I've been listening to a number of bands, and at the end of the year, I'm going to do my top 10 for 2021, maybe a top 20. I'm not sure yet. I do have 10 that I've narrowed it down to, and I may want to just expand the list to include some of these other albums from this label that I just mentioned. As far as AOR Heaven goes, yeah, there was some really cool stuff on that label. A friend of mine, Peter H. Nielsen, has released a couple of albums on that record label. He may want to call a different label now because really he's a talented guy, works with somebody from Nashville who sings on these albums and really high quality stuff. I featured him a couple of times. I've interviewed him, I think, once. And it's music, again, that's not being heard here in the United States. Guys like Eddie Trunk, you could do a 5-minute segment on your show. You could have somebody just rip and read like the old days, rip it off the printer and read, here's what's out there, and you might want to check this out. You don't even have to really interview anybody. Just mention it in passing. The format is going away. It's dying. There are other record labels that were once vibrant, putting out all of, 10 or 20 albums in a short span, and now they're putting out 1 or 2 in the same time frame. And as much as I like Frontiers, again, competition is good. There's Lion's Pride Music. There's a couple of other labels from different countries that a lot of people don't have access to or would really have to dig in order to get there to find the music. It is on Spotify, most of it. It is on YouTube, but not always on YouTube, more likely on Spotify. But again, you've really got a big lack of interest, and it's just kind of sad. It's really a sort of a bummer, holy crap, Batman moment for melodic rock, because this was definitely a pretty good second or third tier label. This was like, your AA farm system, and then maybe Frontiers is the major leagues, or the labels here in the United States, which are just horrible now. If you could get a band signed to one of those labels, that would be a big deal, but they don't want any part of it. It's not making money. These labels aren't selling products because the format itself is no longer in vogue. When Gene Simmons says rock is dead, I think this is what he's talking about to some degree. I don't necessarily agree that all rock is dead. Roots rock and old time bluesy classic rock, that stuff too is in decline. All of this stuff, because it's organic, it's real, the real vocals, it's not auto-tuned, it's not computer generated, it's not done on Pro Tools. I mean, I think these guys still go into a studio and record their music and bring actual guitars. So, it may not be everyone's cup of tea. There's music that spans the entire spectrum from folky, acoustic rock to loud, searing, heavy metal or speed metal or wherever. I'm right there with the keyboards, the hair, the guitars. You can hear the vocals. You can make out the drums. The drums don't sound like machine guns. Somebody's back there, and it's crunchy, big, and organic. And bands like Perfect View. There's another band from Chile called Hunter that I just started listening to, and this is the kind of stuff I like to hear. I'm not always in love with the translations because a lot of these vocalists, their native language is probably not English. So they're putting these albums out singing in English. I think it's still the most spoken language in the free world, right? So they do that in order to get people to buy their albums and listen to their music. And at times, but I grew up listening to Aha and Europe and the Scorpions, right? 3 bands that kind of lose something a little bit in translation when you hear the singers. And nobody really cared. Everybody was like, this is still good. 99 Red Balloons. You could still figure that out, right? So in any event, just another sad day in the world of melodic rock music. I will continue to try to promote this. I have gone back and forth. Should I invest time in this? Should I focus on the world going to hell, which I have been? And I think that's really important. I should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. I hear I'm one of the only guys that does this. There are other guys that do reviews of albums by older bands. You know, like Yes came out with an album and people were talking about it, and that was a big deal because it was Yes. And I liked the Yes album, but Yes as a brand doesn't really need any help when it comes to getting the word out. People hear about Yes and they go, okay, yeah, that's important, you know, and those old brands are really important too. Keeping those brands alive means keeping that format alive a little bit, but it really compresses the amount of exposure that a newer band like A Perfect View, by the way, these guys have been around for about a decade. It's just sad. I think this will be their fourth album, the next one they come out with, fourth or fifth. I can't remember how many they've got to their credit, but a lot of these bands have been around for a long time. And after a while, what happens is they just decide, hey, should I even bother doing this anymore? I mean, nobody's listening, but maybe there are some people listening. I know a lot of these melodic rock record labels depend on people from like Japan, where there's a huge market or a bigger market for this stuff, and all over Europe, where people apparently still want to make this music. And now we're seeing some music coming out of South America, which I think is interesting. Last year we had Landfall. I think they're a band from South America, and they kind of sounded like Journey. And I pointed that out at the end of the year when I did my top 10, and people were upset that I didn't choose some old standard band that put out an album saying this was better than that. And I say, well, yes and no. I'm trying to give exposure to artists that need it. Blue Oyster Cult does not need my help that much. It is tragic what they've done to BOC as far as radio airplay, and classic rock stations should be embracing their new stuff. But again, it's just weird what's happening. It's like censorship. It's like music censorship, which again applies to everything else going on in the world today. If you've got an alternate view, or if you've got an alternate type of music, a lot of times you're going to have more trouble trying to get that out there. Whereas, you know, a TikTok 1 minute clip of a song by Fleetwood Mac, which has been around for 40 something years, goes viral, and you think to yourself, that's just weird. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, the media landscape today is really difficult to navigate. So anyway, I'm going to continue to try to put this stuff out there every so often. And yes, I'll do my top 10 for the year, and we'll see that most of these bands are going to be in that one format. Now, keep in mind, there are other great albums in other genres that I really appreciate and will make my alternate top 10, which I'm not sure I'll do. But the point is, I want to focus on melodic rock music, and I want to try to keep this going. So in any event, thanks for watching. I know there are a lot of people that zone out. They're like, I don't really care. I got my albums from 1988. I'm cool. I don't really need anything else new. Me, I just get bored. You know, I get bored with that stuff, and I love it, but I get bored with it, you know, and a way to kind of not get bored with it is to have other stuff to listen to. And then you go back and listen to that stuff, and then you've got a ton more music out there to enjoy. But we need an infrastructure to promote it. And right now there is no infrastructure.